Okay, are we ready? Thank you very much to students who are on time. I will need to let the other students that they need to be timekeeping because this is not a very good start to become an interpreter. Interpreters are always earlier, so very well done to you. You will be good future interpreters, keeping on time, and the others will be told off when they come. But not starting on this negative note because yesterday we had such a good conference, mock conference, our first mock conference in the simultaneous mode. So I would like to officially welcome Chris and thank her for coming. And Chris will do the first half of our session on the literature, on resources. And today also her colleague came to observe her, so I hope you don't mind. She will be sitting here with us during this session, okay? So Chris, I'll give you the floor.
Thank you.
And I will be here.
Yes, I know that you've all signed up to do a Zotero session as well. I should add that Lynn is one of our Zotero session sort of super persons, so she may well be leading the session when you go over to the welcome room to do it. But for the first hour, as Ava said, I'm going to speak about sort of actual research techniques and sort of places to find useful information, and then she will go on to speak in more detail about your literature review and some of the more technical aspects. But to put things in context, whether you're doing a research project or just a dissertation, you always start with a literature review. And this is to help you contextualize your topic. You need to know what literature exists on the topic to help you see a gap in the coverage. Because what you're looking for with your research project is an aspect that hasn't been explored in very great detail, or maybe what one that people wrote about when the technique or the practice was first developed, but then, for various reasons, interest has moved on to another aspect of it. But sort of maybe now it's sort of time to revisit. So you're thinking about how practitioners and academics have written about your topic since it evolved. And the time scale, it will depend a bit. Sorry, can you not see the screens at the end?
These ones are better for us, because they're closer. You know, we don't need to be rude.
It just sort of makes me feel a bit uncomfortable when I don't have direct eye contact, that's all.
I know what you mean. This room is so big. I know exactly what you mean.
Yes, it is. Oh, it's not like last year. It's not like last year where I was standing in the middle and walking up and down. But yes. So the time scale, it will depend on your area of research. You could be sort of starting from sort of 5 years ago, or particularly if there are more theoretical aspects, then you might be looking at maybe sort of 20 years or longer. So that's sort of something that, if necessary, you can sort of follow up with your supervisor. But you're thinking about what exists and how it's regarded, as I say, academically and professionally as well, because it's the two sides are not always the same. So thinking about how it's evolved and the various factors or forces involved. Have there been social or political or economic factors involved with how it's developed, or technological factors? Any particular individuals or organisations who've been heavily involved with it, and particularly with sort of theoretical sides, that that they'll be key practitioners. So you're looking at all this, and you're also looking for examples, case studies that you can maybe not recycle, but you can use them to sort of give you a steer as to what the best methodology might be for what you're interested in. So, thinking about all this, we're going to focus on looking for overviews. As I said, I just mentioned all these other things here. I'm not going to go through slide by slide because they're all on WebLearn for you to look at later on, but I'll be stopping on the key ones. Main resources, obviously books, monographs and edited books, where you'll be paying very careful attention to the bibliographies and the notes for more specialist things for you to follow up. Yeah? And then books, even if we've just bought it, it's at least 2 years old, because it takes that long for things to be written and published. So, overviews, background, yes, but not up to date stuff. Even journal articles, that they're at least 6 months to a year old by the time that they actually make it into one of the top journals. But the journals are where you're going to find people writing about their research, and particularly if they're writing about sort of experiments that they've done, and where you might find at the end a copy of the questionnaire that they used, or things like this. So journal articles are going to be very important for you. Also, sort of slightly more recent, conferences, seminars, where people are presenting their latest research before that they actually submit it for publication. And that there are places where you can look for this, which I'll show you a little bit later. I've also mentioned theses as well, because although they are sort of more heavily academic than what you'll be doing, and it's also at a higher level, that they can be an extremely good source of references. Yes.
May I just ask a question? Because
Yes.
This is something that can be very relevant to our students. Over the last few years that I've been supervising and a module leader of this particular module, we had some excellent projects written. Can the students actually use something that was written in that module a few years ago, or this is not acceptable?
Well, I think if the author of that project has given permission for their work to be used as a resource by other students, then that would be acceptable. But obviously, it would have to be referenced appropriately.
Okay. And secondly, because our students write excellent dissertations, and every year we are so proud of them, is there any chance to promote them to be published, or to write some articles afterwards? I don't know.
I don't see why not, but I think that you and Danielle probably have a better knowledge than I do of sort of what might be.
No, I'm just thinking
suitable.
from the university point of view. Is the university happy
right.
for them to be available somewhere? It's just a
Well,
good way to promote our students. Would you know the answer to that?
Yeah, we could put we could ask for them to be put in the repository, couldn't we?
Yeah, I think we could.
Yeah, I'll follow that up. Thanks for suggesting it. Actually, can you make a note of it? 'Cause I haven't got a pen with me. Yes, that's a very good thought. And then at the bottom, I've also added sort of various web portals, forums, etc. Which there are a lot of portals, academic ones, organisational ones, which will lead you outwards to, depending on what area you're researching, useful things or less useful. But there will also be professional forums on which you can sort of exchange information on your research, and maybe sort of contact other people who are working in that as well, and sort of gain some useful information. So these are things to follow up as well. So there's various different types of resource. Books, obviously searching the main library catalogue, and also the Encore tool, although I mean that will also pick up chapters from books. It also picks up some journal articles and open access material, but it's not exhaustive. So have a look there, and then move on to the actual databases. If there are books that you come across that we don't have, then we can try and find a copy somewhere else in London where you can go and look at it via the Sconnell Access Scheme, or if it's at the British Library. And we could, if you find articles from a journal that we don't have, then again, we can try and find it for you somewhere else. I mean, even if the worst comes to the worst and we need to apply for an interlibrary loan, that'll still be cheaper for you than trying to buy it online from the publisher. Journal articles, I have 2 slides covering all the databases which I think may be useful to you. Now, you will recall that at the beginning of the year, I spoke to you about BITRA and the EBSCO databases, and also about JSTOR. Now, with those, most of the things that you search for, you will find full text. Some of the others, you will need to go into advanced search to see which we have access to and which we don't. But what I would say to you is, don't only search the ones where we have full text, because you need to know what else exists as well. You need the fullest possible picture. And that's why I also want you to have a look at web. Well, it's called Web of Science. It used to be called Web of Knowledge. And before that, it was part of the Science Citation Index. So let me just We haven't got a link to that, have we? No, okay. Actually, I think if I put Web of Knowledge, it'll still come up, won't it? If I spell it right. I'm not having a very good day typing things today. I had a very difficult keyboard earlier on. Okay, here we are, Web of Science. View online. And it should now ask me to log in. Actually, the other day when I was showing it to some students, I remember it was very slow to load. I don't know if it's always like that.
It is.
But Web of Science, it's very wide-ranging. But it doesn't give you full text. But what it does give you is citation searching. It shows down the side how many times other people have referenced a particular article in their own work. So you can see A, how significant it is, and B, other related articles in that field. So I can't remember if advanced search is terribly helpful or not. But let's just do a short one. Someone give me a topic.
Not taking. Not taking.
Is that normally what, one word or two words, or hyphenated?
Hyphenated.
Interpreting? Because this is not an interpreting database. It's very wide ranging, so you need to prompt it. And because there are lots of different sorts of interpreting, should we use language or linguistics or?
Consecutive or conference?
Can you all see what I've done here? We've got our note-taking and interpreting and either conference or consecutive. And we're keeping the two alternatives together, nested in brackets.
Can I just ask, do you know the Boolean method for searching? You know it already, yes? Okay, just double check. Fantastic.
So let's see what this brings us. This is the broadest possible searching. And that's interesting.
You may be best off doing that in the simple search box, because in the advanced, I think you have to specify fields for searching. I think.
Thank you. Round and round and round. But I don't know if you noticed, but in advanced search, what it did show us down the side was a series of filters that you can use. So you can search either for date or particular subject headings, and or also if there's a particular methodology that you're using. It's a sort of kind of, and I can't, was there a thesaurus as well?
Oh, I didn't notice.
No, I didn't either, but again, some of the databases, they include a link to the thesaurus so that you can see how they treat things in that area, whether there's a preferred term that they use. Okay. So it's found 18 hits there, which is sort of more than I was expecting. And
Quite good, actually.
yeah, it's quite it all looks quite relevant, but and the bottom two, they've both been cited 6 times. So if we click on that, it will show us where they've been cited. Most of the time, you will also have, well, hopefully, full text from the publisher. And up at the top here, you have the option to set alerts. So that whenever something new in your area comes in, you'll get either an RSS feed or a PDF. I can't remember which it is with this. Some of the databases will do this, others won't. But one of the databases I would specifically recommend to you is ZTOC, which is produced by the British Library, and that they index all articles from latest issues of journals coming into them, conference proceedings, things like that. And that's updated daily. So if you set up an alert with them, then it's a good way of sort of keeping on top of what's coming through. So those are there in the slides. Bitra, does everyone remember Bitra? Do I need to go over that again? You want me to show you Bitra? Well, let's go to the EBSCO databases first. Let's go to the translation subject guide. Oh no, I don't want to. Well, this is translation and interpreting. That they both come to the same place. Sorry. So you've got your key journals that you can go in and you can search through each journal specifically for material on your topic. So you've got 3 really key ones there, and then searching through the databases. The ones with the little green star, if we just click on that and go through. And the beauty of having a number of databases through this particular supplier, EBSCOhost, is that you can search them all simultaneously. If we just click up at the top here on Choose Databases, and then I already selected Academic Search Complete, I would recommend that you also include Humanities International Complete and Communication and Mass Media Complete. And if you're looking for methodologies, questionnaires, anything like that, then also include PsycInfo. PsycInfo, as you might guess from its name, it's a psychology database. Psychologists write all the time about their research. And very often at the end of the article, you'll find sort of details of the testing methods that they use, questionnaires. And if you want to follow it up, that they tend to be very happy to sort of correspond with you about this. So do we want to do note-taking again or something else?
And some other subject you came up with last time? I think Alessia had some very exciting one, very new, latest.
Artificial intelligence.
Yes.
Okay.
Let's see if there's anything.
And do we want to do interpreting or conference interpreting? Or anything else?
Maybe translation as well.
Or, well, no, language might be too general as well for AI. But I'm going to stop there because it might be translation or it might be translating. So let's do some word stem searching. Use of the little asterisk will give us all variants on this. So these are all separate things, so we're anding them. And we're being very careful to remember to tick the little box down here that says search within the full text of the articles. If you don't tick this box, then it will only search for your words within the title or the indexing. So you're going to miss an awful lot. And oh, that's good. It's found nearly 2,000. So that's
Yeah.
that's not a lot, is it really?
And it's translation. AI makes people envious because of reality.
Okay, so maybe take translation out and do interpreting. I spelled that right? Terp. Get there in a minute. No, that's... Oh, dear.
It's an R.
T.
It's the first T is an R.
It's not an easy word.
That looks better. Okay. But you notice that it's finding hits quite a long way back. So if we want to make it a bit more up to date, over the last 10 years.
So this is a good starting point, Alessia.
Oops. Now where's it gone back there? That's brought it down quite a lot. And if we say that we're only interested in sort of scholarly peer-reviewed journals, that will bring it down a little bit more, but not a lot. Now, there are other filters that you can use down here. You can look through the controlled vocabulary, see if there are if there are any helpful terminology in there. If you were researching particular languages, then you can click on that. Methodology, tests and measures. Now, what once you've done a bit more reading around, sort of this will be very helpful to you. And you can select a population as well. So if you're looking at sort of particular age groups, or if it's something that's gender related. But well, there's one there, machine intelligence as interpreter. And there's a PDF as well. But this is to do with medicine. It's from a journal called Ethics in Medicine. But we've got the authors here. If we click on the title rather than the full text, then we have the option for searching for other things by these particular authors, and we can also search through this particular journal if it's of interest. And sort of any of the subject terms you can pick up and feed back into your search boxes as well, because you can add as many boxes as you need. So we've been using and, but you can also use or. And if you've got a fairly reasonable set of search results, but there's sort of something a bit off topic that keeps intruding, then you can use not to exclude that. Although you do need to be careful that sort of that you don't lose some of the good stuff as well in that focus. So you need to think hard about it before you actually use not in a serious way. Hopefully you'll always have full text, but if you don't, then send me all the details and I'll look for it, or I'll sort of show you how you can look for things. I don't want to go through that process now because we don't have a great deal of time. Let me just go back to Beatra. Which is, I think, the most wide-ranging of our translation and interpreting databases. But again, it like Web of Science, it only gives you a summary. You don't get the full text. Because they're set up to operate with a fairly controlled vocabulary, it helps if you can find one of their keywords. But if you don't, then don't worry. Let's try. Let's do note taking again. What was that with interpreting? I'm not sure. I can't remember whether how Bitra reacts with the asterisks, but we'll try it. Ah. That's okay. It's found quite a lot. Now, was it simultaneous or consecutive that we're interested in? Simultaneous or consecutive? Okay, so these should be sort of really focused. And you'll see as we scroll down that it's found some articles, some books, book chapters, and sometimes it comes up with a dissertation as well. So what you have to do is then click on the title to see what it's from. And this is from a journal called Babel. You've got the volume, the issue number, and the year. And they've helpfully given you a DOI as well, which you can use to search for it online. I can't remember if we have access to Babel or not, but let me just have a look in the catalogue. Oh. But do we have all the years? That's the question. That's only up to 2008. Oh, no, when was that?
2018.
It was from 2000. So. Mm, 64.3. This is the wrong Babel. If that was. No. Okay, so that's disappointing. There's more than one journal with that title, and we don't have the right one. But again, we can search for it somewhere else. Let's just go back. Now this is a chapter from a book. And here we've got the details of the book. The authors, the title, and it tells us it's proceedings of a conference. So, first of all, we could look to see if we can find somewhere that holds a conference proceedings in print. But failing that, we could look to see what it's a conference. Is it an organisational conference? In which case we'd search for the website of the organisation, or we'll search the university where it's held to see if there are conference proceedings in their archives. There are various routes to following things up. It's another book here. And yeah. They've even helpfully given us the ISBN. Sometimes, if it's an article, you'll find that they've that it's actually open access, and you get a URL link to it as well. But not so much in this area as some of the other topics that I've been searching for with other groups recently. But again, you can pick up. You can pick up any of these other keywords, or you can sort of focus in on particular authors and build them into your search. Any questions? Some of you are looking a bit sort of shell-shocked. So let's leave those for the moment. Just remember BITRA, the EBSCO databases, and the other ones, and looking always in the advanced search for the option to set up alerts. And there's a little thing about alerts there. Working papers, conference papers, and dissertations. If I can just go back to the subject guide. I thought it was going to take me back to the subject guide, but it isn't. So let's go back in there, and it don't need to go all the way back into the interpreting and translation web subject guide. What we're going to look at here, guys, is the with the subject guides, the one which mentions theses. Now you can use the top options to search for theses on your topic, but what I want to look at here is the repositories. And these are places where preprints, research in progress, where people are sort of talking about it at conferences and other places like that. So some of they all have sort of slightly different foci. So for some of you, that they may be sort of really good, and for others, they may not be as good. But let's try core. No, not sure what we'll do. interpreter, because then that's less likely to be the wrong sort of interpreting. But it doesn't seem to have found anything.
Sorry, Chris, try putting a bracket at the front. I think you put an extra quotation.
Ah. Thank you.
Well, that might not make any difference.
No. Well, as I said, some. Oh
There we go.
no. But it's listing them by relevance and yeah, interpretation, explanation. Yes, and that let's just double check. I think that's a bit. No, I think that's about as close as it's going to come.
What about if we put machine translation instead of learning?
Oh. Oh, that's better.
Because they sometimes describe us as translators.
Yes,
although-
yes, yes.
Yeah, so there are some.
And this is from a techie blog as well. So So it's always worth trying, and sometimes you need to be prepared to think of sort of different alternatives. So let's skip through these. But thinking, as I said before, about professional language as opposed to academic language, and also, if relevant, how things are referred to in the media. Because again, there's different registers, different types of language. And thinking also where the practices are different in sort of different countries, different organisations, whether they do things sort of differently at the UN to other places. Combinations, I've mentioned, grouping things, truncating. Oh, the wild card as well, which you can use with some databases to get you over English and American English spellings. Now, as you're searching, always be prepared to look for analogies, because you're never going to find the killer quote or sort of exactly the right match for your test or your questionnaire. So you've got to look for sort of possible things that are similar that you can adapt. So always thinking about keeping an eye open for analogies. But you're starting with a small idea. You're reading and reading, and it's sort of a bit like a snowball. It's a bit like building a snowball, except that you're constantly reviewing what you're finding at each stage. and sort of some of it's really good, but some of it's less good. So you're putting that out, and maybe you think, oh yes, and I need to include that, so you're bringing other things in. So it's a bit more like a sort of a spiral than a snowball, and it's gradually evolving to the perfect set of results, and then all you need to do is use them. But always evaluating what you're finding, not just for relevance, but sort of thinking about the authors and what their standpoint is, what organisation that they're from, if they're expressing sort of strong points of view. How authentic are they? How up to date are they in their views? And when you come to look at your research designs, your methodology, again, making sure that's all up to date, and that your software and everything is up to date. If you're looking at other people's results, then sort of just keep an eye open for the accuracy of their results, their statistics. And, well, I'm sure I don't need to remind you of this, but when you're researching online, yeah. Does anyone not understand? Have you ever heard of Abraham Lincoln? Did they have the internet back then? So that's the point. Okay. Okay, so to quickly recap, articles you can't find or books that you can't find in full text, you may be able to go and look at them via a scheme called Sconnell Access. Sconnell Access you have to register for, and if you haven't already, then on the library website, down at the bottom where no one ever looks, there's a bit called Access to Other Libraries. And if you click onto the one that mentions Sconnell Access, registration, there's an online form which you fill in, and then it will display a list of all the places that you can go to. You will be sent an email which you save and print off a copy each time you want to go to a new library, because they will want the printout. They may want to keep it for their own records. So you need to keep your e-copy and print out a copy every time you go. And then you'll take with you your card from us, and in most cases a passport photo as well. Always check your destination university's website before setting out, because sometimes that they'll have their own online application form that they like you to fill in before going along, and also that they may only register new people there within certain hours. It's like if you're coming to London Met. If you turn up after 8:30 in the evening, then we won't register you because we go off duty at 9 o'clock, and we're already into sort of close down mode, and it takes at least 10 minutes to make you out one of the little cards. So you need to check for these things. Access to other libraries. There also details of other tools that you can use, and access to the British Library as well. And they're here on the slides. Interlibrary loans, as I said, if the worst comes to the worst, this is what it will cost you. Referencing and Zotero, organising your search results. Well, you're coming along to that. Is it next week? Or this week?
2 weeks' time.
2 weeks' time,
Yeah.
okay. So we had details of that. Any problems? Email me. Or should you need to make an appointment for a one-to-one, then you can do that through the link on the subject guide webpage. Now, I know it's a lot to take in. And really, I've just sort of scratched the surface. So have a good dig around and sort of, if necessary, you know, sort of come back to me. And maybe we can sort of think of some different angles to explore, particularly if you're sort of looking for sort of tests and methodologies and things. And as Lynn is the psychology subject specialist, you know, she's quite good on things like that as well. No, her German's probably as good as mine. but yeah, the slides are all on WebLearn, and the links are all live. Okay, so I'll see you all again, I hope.
Thank
soon.
you, Chris. Are you, pressed on time, or can we maybe for 10 minutes have a little search all the students and see how they are doing? Or you?
Well, I mean, if anyone else sort of what wants to offer up any topics, then we can do.
Yeah, shall we try? Is there any topic that you already tried to research and you struggle to find some materials, some resources, anything you know, since we've got Chris here, it's an excellent opportunity, and I know Chris is very good meeting one-to-one with you as well, but is there anything now you would like Chris to have a look at?
Yes, for example,
Can you switch on the microphone just for those who are not here with us? Thank you.
I would also be interested in how many interpreters actually use translation software to prepare glossaries. So I know that there is something about it on ResearchGate, but it's not mentioned. We didn't mention this kind of website today. So it's something that would be interesting.
Do you think that's just because sort of people do it, but they don't necessarily write about it, that the people who do it aren't necessarily people who are under pressure to publish?
Because I was thinking about focusing on how many interpreters actually use these pieces of software to prepare faster. So to enhance their preparation for the glossary and do it less time consuming.
So what sort of search terms would we use?
What's the name of that software? Is it the one?
the one for translators. The one.
The ones we use to extract terms, for example.
With Maha, yeah? The workshop you did with Maha, or?
No. Because I studied it, Trados, yes, or Trados, but also MemSource.
MemSource, yeah. That's more for translators, yeah.
Yes, but I was thinking about implementing it in interpreters' practice. Would it be helpful? Would it be less time consuming to prepare?
Because there are also some that I can't remember now the name, but if you did that workshop with Maha on a Saturday, I think they had some nice software that. Yeah, I think maybe that one, and there was something else, or to compare, to extract some terms.
Yeah.
So maybe for glossaries, it would be more helpful, the interpreters ones, like. But let's see. Well, maybe preparation as well. Yeah. I don't know. I'm thinking about keywords.
Software,
Software. Yeah.
Well,
Chris got
well,
software.
Let's see.
glossary.
I'm selecting old fields because I'm not sure what it might come under. We can add more things later on.
Computer assisted preparation. Wow, that's a gold mine for you, Martina. The second point, and actually this gentleman, Claudio, he's coming to speak at the conference in a few weeks' time in London, the AI conference. He will be there speaking as well on AI. And that's a very good source for you, computer assisted preparation and conference interpreting.
Yeah. And it looks as if that we got a link through to that as
Yeah,
well.
can we have a look if it's working? Is that, Martina, what you were thinking of? Yeah, this kind of.
Exactly.
When you're opening up a link, it's important that you always do it in a new tab. Don't ever just click on one that's embedded, because you may not be able to get back to your set of search results that you spent ages putting together. I think this is going to give us a list that we'll then need to go through. Yeah. Okay, so that was 2017.
24 to 37 pages.
If it was 24, it's probably in volume in number 1, isn't it?
Is it 24?
What's that? 24 to 37. Translation interpreting, is that what we're in? Yes.
That said 9.2 though.
Yeah, 9.2.
Oh, okay.
Issue 2.
Well spotted. That's the one.
There it is.
And look, there's a PDF as well.
Look, Martina.
And it's downloading. So do you want to take a quick snap of the screen?
And what Chris was mentioning before, I would go also to references that Claudio used to write this article, because the references might be also very useful to you. Okay, so maximizing your resources.
Yeah.
Thank you. So, anyone else has got any, urging question and struggle to find some materials? Willing?
So my topic is about use of margin in consecutive interpreting notes. And I just find some generally about the notes-taking approaches, but not specific in the use of margin.
notes, yeah,
Note taking, yeah.
note.
No result.
No, that. Well, what other?
Could it be maybe a notepad or I don't know, I'm just trying to think broader because margin is very narrow.
No, I don't know, just. Yeah. There's something in here somewhere.
We know this gentleman, Andrew Gillis.
Yeah. Ah. Translating the margins of the image. But no, that's not what you're looking for, is it? That's to do with subtitles. Okay. Okay, there's obviously something in there somewhere, but you sort of need to.
This one will be probably like a short paragraph
through
in a
it.
chapter of Andrew Gillis's.
Yes, I mean it's only 176 pages, the whole book, so yeah, a short course. So sort of not very research oriented. So you'd need to sort of try a range of different databases with that, and sort of maybe also get on some of the practitioner forums. That's what we do all the time. Where we've got that if we're thinking about trying something new, or if we got a problem, then we just email either Liz link, which is the main librarian's link, or I'm often emailing sort of some of my sort of more specialist librarians groups like ArcLib for the architecture people, or Liz Law for the law librarians, things like that. So that there must be lots of professional groups out there as well that you can register with. Okay, so you're all set now to leap into the more technical aspects
Yes,
of the review. There are a lot of things there to close down. Can I just leave them with you?
Yes, please do. Thank you so much for
Okay,
coming.
that's
And
okay.
if our students have got any questions, they can just reach you on your email, yes?
Yes, absolutely.
Good. Thank you so
Okay.
much for joining us. Thank you. Yes, so now you will know how to find the resources, which is really good. That's very, very helpful. Have you already tried looking before today, or have you used any of those websites for your essay? Perhaps? No, not yet. You haven't used Bitra? Okay. So what I suggest, since it is fresh in your head, I would suggest that maybe you try between today and tomorrow to do a little bit search, because also you will realize if you're struggling to find or not. And I would suggest that if you do, get in touch with Chris, because she's really good at digging it out. Okay, and now because you've been sat down and listening, I would like to start from a little work that I would like you maybe in pairs to talk about the literature review. And just to tell you our plan, we already heard from Chris about how to find it, and the second part is going to be about the literature review, because this is a very essential part, no matter if you're writing the original research or reflective research. So this is an important part of your research project. and basically I think the supervisor will put a lot of pressure on that chapter, because that chapter is the foundation, it's setting the scene for your for the whole project. And perhaps before I start and tell you about how to write it and etc., I would like you to work in pairs, and I would like to talk you to talk about what are the purposes of the literature review. We already talked about a little bit in the last session about the research questions, and now I would like you to talk, what do you think the purpose for literature review the purposes are. And once you're ready, I'm going to open the Nureva span, and if you can just put few bullet points in the Nureva span on the canvas, okay? So 5 minutes for you to talk about it, okay? And then I will ask you to put it on the Nureva span.
Based on this, those are the evidence or something to support your research, or from the literature review. You can find maybe there is some
If you know already, if you've identified some purposes, if you can just add it to the canvas, please.
Just do the experiment and
Risky risk.
You don't have it. It's in your phone.
Oh, you just put the red, just put that on the side.
like a question here or I can tell you. Could you please borrow me some
Back up when the offices. Abbiamo.
I want to do research and I'll need to experiment out. It doesn't work.
It doesn't
No quick share is available.
No.
Okay,
No quick
Yeah, no, it's
share
not
group
working.
is available.
that's so bad.
Yes.
It's not working.
Let me do it again. What about now? Can you try it now?
Hopefully it will work. About the background knowledge from my teacher. I will give you a small quiz about what you
Infatti
prepared.
la mia
But
professoressa
I
ha
won't
liquidato
ask
con
you
la
based
festa
on
che
what you prepared. I will ask you based on what you know. Where access code? No, I need to see.
Still but
Is it working or not?
no.
It is.
Oh.
For me, it's not.
Oh, yeah,
For
yeah,
us,
yeah,
it
yeah,
is.
yeah.
So it must be okay if it's working for some.
For us, it's okay.
It says joining dot dot. Ma non è sia
I joined it, so it's loaded.
Joining.
Ma load in quanto?
Ho capito, sono tu wifi un po' così. Non funge.
Next one is audience. Evidence.
Ma tu hai scelto che di solito cioè ho sbagliato
So who is my yellow group? Yellow. Okay, I've got 2 yellow. Okay, you've chosen that color. Okay, that's fine. So we've got the purposes: existing theories, introduction to scholars, backup one's hypothesis, provides theoretical support. So we've got some similarities here. To support your research topic. I really like this one. I don't know who wrote it. To support your research topic. That was very good. Maybe even support your research topic, and I could add maybe that's something that will fit in within your research question, because remember, the most important to start with is your research question, and you haven't developed it yet as such, but this is very important. So the literature review will need to fit in within your research question. Okay, very good. Some foundation for the thinking process, to become aware of the existing theories. Theoretical framework, good. Starting point of your research, brief analysis, contextualize, perfect, to provide knowledge on a topic, to evaluate on author's research study, to further develop, to against. What is it, to against?
Means maybe you find your topic is to.
If you can switch on the mic, Willing.
At this point means if you find some theory provided by some professor, for example, and maybe you will agree with this point, but you have something to add to this point. Or, for example, you totally disagree with this, and you have find some example or experiment to against this idea.
Brilliant. So you want to refute it, yeah? That's what we say in the academic language, refute. Okay, perfect. And I also like here, find something that needs more tests to prove. I really like that as well. I don't know who wrote it. Wheeling, okay, good. So perhaps you're reading and you found some kind of a gap. Okay, so you've identified some gap, and I think that will be your case. If you want to focus on the margin, you probably already realize there is not much written. Maybe there will be something written about taking notes, notepad or tablet that you're using, but not necessarily the margin itself. Very good. What I like also here, where was it? I don't know, back up one's hypothesis. So basically you've got some kind of argument and you're looking for literature that would support your argument, okay? However, you cannot be cherry picking. And when I say that, what I mean is that you cannot just be reading to find things that support your research question or support something that you want from the research question to come out. You have to be quite objective as researchers. You have to try to always be objective and not subjective. And you should avoid only using arguments that support. It is very good to show in your literature review that, for instance, on one hand, some theorists say this, but others say that. So you need to be able to present both arguments, okay? So not only something that will support your idea, but you need to be able to have counter arguments, okay? Brief analysis, okay. Some people also say that literature review, actually it's not literature review, because you're not going to include everything you read. You will be quite selective about what you will include. So basically we don't want to know everything you read. We just want you to include something that is relevant, that is useful for your research and your research topic, your research question, okay? So that's quite important. What is other purpose of literature review? I actually don't think anyone put that. When you read academic writing, what do you do by reading it? Can I please ask you to switch on the mic? It's just for those who are not with us.
You learn how to express yourself. using this kind of language.
Perfect. Yes. So whenever you read, you kind of immerse yourself. You know, like you come over to such a particular country, you immerse yourself in the culture, in the language. So when you start reading, you also observe how these authors are actually expressing their arguments, or actually how they are quoting other people's work, or how they are presenting argument and counter argument. So by reading, you are going to be improving your future writing, if you know what I mean. Okay, so whenever you read and you really like some expression that somebody used, I suggest you write it down. Have some diary, Google diary or physical diary, and write down those nice expressions, those nice words or terms that the other authors use. Also by reading, and that's something that my former student did, she read so much about note-taking and different experiments or methods that were used to support or refute some theories, that basically she was able to then develop her experiment based on what she read. So, for instance, one author would say, oh, I conducted experiment with students only. The other, I conducted the experiment and I gave keywords, or I did that. And she actually asked her subjects to take some notes. So, and also she discovered how many subjects other people, researchers, were using. So it gave her some idea. Okay, somebody used 2, somebody used 12. So perhaps I'll go for some happy medium, and she used 6. So basically, while reading other people's work, you will also see what kind of experiments they did, how they developed their methodology. Okay, so it's very good for you to be informed, fully informed. Okay, I don't think there was something else so we mentioned the gap, and also whenever you read, you will probably realize, oh, further research is needed there. Normally in the articles, everybody writes recommendations or limitations of their studies, and they would also recommend some further research. So maybe when you're reading, you will see, somebody actually mentioned that further research should be done on this subject. So it might interest you as well. Familiarize yourself with the topic. You will have had that. Learn specialist terminology. It will also help you maybe to even refine your research question when you do your reading. Okay, good, fantastic. I'm going to take a screenshot of that and include it in your PowerPoint. Hale and Napier also presented some process of reviewing the literature. Okay, it's quite good. So what you've just written, she actually divided into 3 different phases. First, as exploring the topic, so reading about the subject, what are the issues, and then finding a gap in knowledge. So in your case, the margin use, for instance, yes? Or somebody else had some ideas as well. Martina had this idea about the computer-assisted preparation. As we have seen, there are not that many articles on that, so it might be something good. Anything with technology will be a good subject because it has developed recently, so you will have you will add some contribution to our field. And the third phase, according to Hale and Napier, is what does my research fit in relation to other research, so positioning your research. So these are just some ideas by Hale and Napier. Whenever you did the module with Natalie, you wrote an essay and you did a lot of, I think you also did like a critical thinking, yes? Exercise, or was it like an essay as well, or you had to write something on critical thinking or review somebody else's work, yes? So what is important here, that you are critically thinking, but it doesn't mean that you're criticizing it. It's not that you're saying, oh, this is wrong or this is good, but you can always give like a counter argument. So just thinking about some examples to that. What you probably need to remember is to avoid any type of generalization, because it's very easy to generalize, or some authors say, remember that in your literature review everything will need to be backed up by some references, okay? If it's some paraphrasing that you will do and you will just include in the brackets the name of the author, or if you're going to quote somebody, anything you will put in literature review will need to be backed up by some reference, basically. And the next thing, what I think Chris mentioned as well, is about referencing and about reading. So whenever you read, you need to jot down everything you read. And I'm going to present you a few ideas how you can do it, as you need to be very mindful of plagiarism. So you don't copy somebody else's work, because you will spend like next 2 months or 3 months even reading. You probably already started reading and you will be doing some reading, and even when you think, okay, my literature review looks good, that's the end of it, you may actually come across some other article or book and you will decide to change it. So write down and make sure that you know who said what. And also what one of my colleagues recommends is to do, not to write down the quotes, but maybe when you read something, you sit down and you start reading an article. Maybe it's good to actually read the abstract, read the conclusion, okay, and then have a look at the methodology. Because you know, you're very busy, and what you need to be mindful of is that you've got the exams, the practical exams, and you know, as much as some people may love research, etc., I think we are all here because we love interpreting. That's our things that, you know, motivate us, okay? So I am aware that you don't have as much time to spend on reading. So be very careful, okay? And choose your materials that you will end up reading quite carefully. Don't just read everything, and don't think, okay, I will just have 50 different entries in my bibliography because Eva said that you have to have so many entries. No, whatever you choose, as I said before, has to be relevant and has to be useful to your research. And there is no point in reading a book that is 100 pages long if it's not relevant to you. So read the abstract, read the conclusion, check, if you're in doubt, check the methodology. If you think that this will inform your research, that this fits in within your research question, then this is the material to read, and also to jot down something from it. And your first initial expression is very good, actually. So write down the idea. You know, like when we interpret and we do the analysis of a speech, and we are thinking ideas, you know, the verbalization. The same refers to your reading, to your critical reading and critical thinking as well. Write down that idea so that you know what it was about, okay? And long term, you should probably start writing the literature review quite early. And each of those ideas that you think that fits in within your research question should probably be a paragraph that you will have in your literature review. I'm going to show you later on some literature review for both original and reflective option. So I'm not going to read everything that is written by Hell and Napier, but go back to it, okay? And I think, Luca, when you left what I said, and it's something really important, is about cherry picking. So not so you should not be cherry picking, so not using materials or resources that just support your argument because it is convenient for you. You have to be objective, yeah? Okay, so just some couple of ideas, and I will keep talking about literature review anyway. So obviously, whatever you read, and you already started reading, so you should have some kind of system. There are some, I don't know, 10 or 20 different softwares, but here at the university, we keep talking about Zotero and Mendeley. I'm not sure which one is better. Some of my colleagues use Mendeley, some use Zotero. We've got the training for Zotero, so by default, I think we will be using the Zotero. However, if you have time and you feel like it, you can check Mendeley. I think there is a free option, and for this type of research, free option should be sufficient. But we've got the Zotero training, and basically this is something I just took from Zotero. So when you read, you just add everything to Zotero, and then you've got all your kind of bibliography already there. And these software should be compatible. I think Mendeley is. Zotero, I'm not sure, but I believe it should be compatible with Word. So whenever you write your research, you write your dissertation, there's probably, and they will teach us that at the training, whenever you use something, it should automatically provide the reference for it. So I hope this will actually make it easier for you to write the dissertation. But obviously, don't forget about some conventional methods, okay? So as a diary, you can keep a diary, especially if you do a lot of traveling, or post-it notes. If you read something, it is up to you. Especially diary could be useful, or Google Diary, Google Drive Diary could be useful for writing down those nice phrases that you come across when doing academic reading, okay? And also something that was developed by another colleague of mine, who is a German conference interpreter. Whenever she wrote her thesis, and Germans being very organized, she came up with some kind of system in spreadsheet. So if you like Excel spreadsheet, and you started doing some reading and you can't wait until we have the Zotero training, you start writing and you write, I think she color-coded it in terms of usefulness to her research, okay? As in, yes, maybe, I don't know, okay? So it is up to you. I'm just giving you some ideas. It depends how you work and how you like working, and choose whatever you want, okay? But no matter what you do, keep track of your reading, because you may actually forget, and then you think, oh, I read something really good, and you can't find it, and you spend hours trying to find it, okay? So Chris was excellent showing us how to get to those resources. It's not going to be easy, especially for some cutting-edge themes, but if you find something, make sure you've got it somewhere, okay? So the next question, I just put some questions that normally students ask me when I'm supervising them, but also sometimes in class. How much should I read? As I said before, don't read everything, because we don't have time. You've got a few months to write this dissertation. Be selective, okay? Make sure this is relevant and useful to your research theme, research question. How many items? Again, this depends on your topic. If you're writing about note-taking, I think you can have loads of entries, because there have been quite a few books, articles written about note-taking. If you're going to do something on AI or maybe machine, computer-assisted softwares, things like that, I don't think there will be so many things written about it. But I would say more than 30 entries, okay? Relevant entries. 30, 35, 40. So most importantly, I mentioned that they need to be relevant to your research questions or problems, and if you will need to know if they support your perspective or not. So have both arguments. As I think Wheeling or maybe Ami said, some theory that you can say something opposed to, or maybe it will support, but have it from both angles, okay? And it's nice to see students, when they prepare those literature review, to see their thinking process as well, and showing all the different sides, okay? I think I've seen Chris mentioning the podcast and webcast, because if it's a innovative subject, you will probably have more of that kind of resources than some books, okay?
If it's a podcast, we just transcribe what we hear.
Yes, Yes, yes. I'll show you. Actually, I've got an example for you, and I'll show you later on how you can do it. And you put that in the references as well. And what is important is when it was accessed, because maybe your supervisor or your marker later on will want to check if all the entries are really there, and maybe they won't be able to access it because later on it's taken down or something. So also the date of accessing it, and you transcribe it. Yes, that's correct. So literature review, in essence, you write about why you choose a certain topic, why is it relevant to your research question. You can see that this research question keeps coming back, and this is something that we will be focusing between now and the next session, actually. And also some things that you will need to consider for your literature review. Does it support your arguments, or maybe it's an opposing view? Will you be refuting it? Or maybe it's got some new angles to your research, okay? And any further reading on a particular topic. No matter what you do, again, you will need to explain that in your dissertation, because the whole dissertation, as I mentioned before, is the whole process, is a journey. And we want to see how you actually go through that journey and how you learn. And maybe there will be some obstacles. Maybe you won't be able to find as many things on the subject. So you will need to go maybe to the broader field, and you will also need to explain that, why you did what you did. And I've got here a couple more things. So is it more about reading or more about writing? And one of my colleagues actually said that this is reading for writing and writing for reading. Because as I said before, you're reading to improve your writing as well, and to put something down that is informed arguments, and also you're writing, but when you write, you come up that there is more that you need to read, okay? So this literature review, probably, it will be one of the most important things you will start with. That's why when you meet up, when you have your first meeting with your supervisor, they will ask you, what did you read? And can I see draft? Or next time, can you show me the draft of your literature review? They will want to see it, and they will actually focus on it, because this is the foundation for your research, okay? So that's quite relevant. And what I wanted to do, I wanted to show you some literature review and some topics, some cutting-edge topics, and for both, but I'm not sure if I can connect my laptop to it. I think it's this one. Does it automatically connect, or perhaps I need to change it? Laptop. Maybe I need to accept. Have you ever tried that, to connect the laptop from it or not? And I probably can do it for some reason. Okay, let me set this to myself. So, have you decided how many people want to write original research and how many want to write the reflective option? Do you know? Do you have an idea? Original. So, who wants to go for original? Okay, so it will be half enough, maybe, or and reflective. Harry, okay. So no, actually not half and half. Just Harry, and the rest are undecided. Let me see. L, yeah, she doesn't know. Okay, let me see if I have received that email. Sorry. So I wanted to show you if I receive it. Oh, there it is. So I can't give it to you because these are the dissertation of our past students. But let me show you one dissertation, and this is original, so it will be of interest to most of you. So this is one of the students that actually, and again, I don't really like the way it is showing me that. Oh. So this student, it was a very good dissertation, and he wrote about conference interpreting, confidentiality, the use of social media. Where do we go from here? MA dissertation. As you can see, he actually used the Twitter as his front page, so quite a nice way to do that. And here is the abstract, but basically what he was talking, because social media has increased, the use of social media has increased and people are using it for marketing purposes. And you know, there are some colleagues who will take picture when they are in the booth and sometimes on the screen or the materials you can see. And most of the conferences that we do are confidential. So actually by taking a picture of a background, you're releasing some information about the job. So he took it very seriously, and actually he used it for one of Daniel's module as a presentation. So they did some little projects, some video, big hash campaign on the Twitter, hence this is a Twitter. You can probably, if you follow him, you can see the video he did with his colleagues for, I think for the TIPE module. They were talking about ethics, confidentiality, and then he thought, oh, it's an interesting subject, I want to develop it more. And he used that as a starting point for his dissertation. So what do you think? Did he struggle to find resources? Yes, of course he did. So what to do? He's not going to cry over spilled milk that I chose subject that is extremely interesting, but I can't find anything. So he took a very good approach to it. He kind of broadened his research. So there was not much on social media for interpreters, use and confidentiality. So he went broader. He wrote about, say again? Ethics. So he reached, and I've actually got here a few, I wanted to show you the references so you could see how many references he's got. But he chose, have a look here, revisiting ethics and ideology in situations of conflict. So he, good chunk of his bibliography is actually on ethics, professional ethics in a virtual world, the impact of the internet on traditional notions of professionalism. As you can see, he chose some materials that were actually on ethics. And you mentioned about the podcast. I don't know if they came here or they came to Moorgate. I'm not sure now, but there are now there are 4 of them. Troublesome terms. I'm sure you heard of them. If you follow Twitter, they've got very good podcasts. And because they found out about that hash campaign, at some point they invited this student to take part in the podcast. And then obviously that was podcast he participated and he used something from his this podcast. As you can see, he wrote which episode and whenever this episode was accessed. Yeah. And also what he did, he was quite good at finding different other resources. So for instance, and you probably know him, Laura, you did MA or BA at Leeds University. At Leeds, my colleague Andrea Alvisi, Italian conference interpreter, he's actually one of the tutors there. And he wrote, and I will show it to you, he wrote, and this was so current actually, It was whenever the student, so as you can see, the student had to hand in the dissertation in September. This is accessed on the 19th of July. So he probably should have already finished his literature review. But as you can see, there was this great post, and that was very current because I think there was something with the President Trump and his Russian interpreter, and this has I'll see if I can access it still. And it actually shed some light. Aik was writing about it. So Andrea is writing about confidentiality, and it had to do with Donald Trump's conference in Helsinki. So as you can see, you don't stop searching, okay? Obviously, you cannot just leave the literature review until August, hoping that some article or some book will be written. You have to have most of it already done, but you still keep an eye on any interesting subject, okay? So this is just to show you how your literature review, the references for your literature review. So as you can see, he probably has more than 30 different entries, and some maybe, he's got some suggested guidelines on social media from AIC website, and some other, if you can see here, social media and electronic communications. So basically, ethical dilemmas in emergency medicine. So he went and he researched, I think because he did work in hospital, I think he reached out to what is written about social media use for the doctors. So he used that source. So as you can see, it's not interpreters, but it's another profession. So this is something what you can do. And one of my students that I supervised last year, he had an excellent topic because he wrote about, I can't remember the exact title, but he wrote about marketing yourself. So as me interpreter, I am also a business person. I not only interpreter, because nowadays we are all business people, because we need to sell our services, we have to market ourselves. And he also struggled to find resources on marketing for interpreters. Maybe there are just few books and some articles, but he couldn't find the relevant books for that. So I recommended to him to go out of the interpreting and maybe just go back to some basics or general principles or marketing in general, and then apply it to interpreting, okay? So just to give you some ideas. So this is when you're writing an original one. And next time we've got the session, I'm going to bring you some written dissertations already, but I don't want to do it from the beginning because I don't want to overwhelm you. Sometimes students think, oh my gosh, I'm never going to write something like that. You will, and you will surprise yourself, and it's going to be excellent, I'm sure. But for the next one, I will bring it to you so you can see, because after the next session, you will need to come up with the research questions and submit the proposals. I want you to have a look. And also I wanted to show one of your colleagues, Federica Guzzo, and I think some of you know her, or most of you know her. She was quite pragmatic. This is just a part of it. I just copied few things. It's not her dissertation, but she went for a reflective option. And just to show you, their subject was interpreting for the food industry, reflective analysis on the accuracy of simultaneous performance from Italian into English. And actually that was really good because Federica said, I want to use my dissertation to further develop one of my skills and focus on interpreting into English and also on the food sector, because there is quite a lot of work apparently within that sector for the Italian interpreters. So just to show you, that's her literature review. She has got different sub points, and as you can see, she's quoting here or referencing it to some theories, and as you can see, there is a lot of references. She's got different schools. I bet if effort model is applicable to you, you will probably use as well Jill's effort model. And she's writing about stress factors, and I think, because she's writing about interpreting into B, She's got also some literature to support any obstacles when you're interpreting into B language, the effort model, obviously, and simultaneous interpreting as a complex activity. But as I mentioned before, please try to refrain from generalization. So we can't say in the literature review, oh, as we all know, simultaneous interpreting is difficult. We can't use generalization like that. We have to always support it with some reference to something that was written before. She's writing about quality, and now about strategies, because that will be later on, whenever she does her experiment, that will be something that she will go back to. So different strategies, because she's going to reflect on her own performance, see which strategies she used and what issues she identified, cultural idioms, and as you can see, references. She's got also different references. But obviously for this subject, she probably didn't struggle to find the resources because it's simultaneous interpreting. Obviously, she had to focus on interpreting into B language. But as you can see, this one, for instance, is even something about directionality in Chinese-English simultaneous interpreting. So as you can see, you don't have to just focus on your language combination. You can go beyond that. Okay, so as I said, next time I will bring you some dissertation so you can have a look. And going back, there is also excellent advice on how to use sources by these two authors. And I just wanted to ask you if you've got any questions, because we are close to the end of the session, but I want to make sure that it's clear for you what the literature review is and how to write it. Probably it will be one of the most difficult parts, because when you will be writing about methodology, it will be basically how you design your experiment, why you chose this particular methods and not other. And then when you will be analyzing, it will be the most important chunk, but it will be easier to write because you will be writing about something you did. Either you're reflecting on your performance, or maybe you conducted experiment, and it is very exciting. But some students find the literature review quite overwhelming. So that's why the whole reading for writing is also important, because it will inform your writing. So do you have any questions? Is it clear? I can't see on your faces. Yeah, I can see Alessia and Luca are clear. Amin, you clear? Harry? Yeah, and obviously we are here for you, but also you will have your supervisor who you will submit the literature review, and please do submit it, do ask for feedback, because they will be able to point it out. It has to be coherent, it has to nicely link in and fit into your research question, okay? Now, something that I wanted to tell you, what I posted on the WebLearn, because I promised to you last time that I'm going to post something. Okay, so I will tell you what I posted, and then I will tell you about the homework. So, useful reading resources. I posted here the Syrian bulletin, so you can have a look if there is any materials here that might be of interest for you. For your research. And also Danielle attended a very interesting conference where people were presenting their research, and I just went through the handout, and I've notified there were some few, I think, about refugee settings in Italy. I think it was Amin, I'm not sure, Amin or somebody else who wanted to write about it. Something on medical consultation, I think somebody mentioned that to me last time. Mental health, I think something about stress or conflict zones. I think, I mean, it's for you, isn't it?
Yeah.
Perhaps.
Right.
Yeah, but...
Still thinking about it, yeah.
Okay, good, think about it. Stress and burnout, I think somebody was talking about stress in interpreting. So this is really recent. So have a look, and you can maybe further check. Okay. So, I also posted something on WebLearn, something I found and I thought it was useful. Where is it? Session 2. So, this is some document recommending how to write a literature review. So obviously, apart from our Hale and Napier, which is like the most important resource for us, please read it. But this is something else that you can use. And I just want you to I want to show you your homework for the next time. This is something quite important. It's the meta language, and what I would like you to do is whenever you read Hale and Napier, I would like you actually to add some comments to each of these words. Okay, what is the objectivist? What is quantitative? So that for the next session we all know what this means. Okay, and probably Martina is like nodding. Are you familiar already with these?
All these terms?
Yeah. Maybe you have them already in your BA, or I don't know.
Not all of them.
Not all of them. Okay, so it's quite worthwhile for you to do a little bit of research, and then next week, because not next week, but next time when we meet, we will be actually trying to work on the research questions, refining your research question. I know that not all of you have the idea what you want to write about. But we will also think about methods. And if I could ask you to read chapter 1 and chapter 2 to make sure you've got it all read, and it's quite good, that book, we are going to do the exercise 3.1. So we are going to see if the questionnaire is the most appropriate method for the following research questions. Perhaps let's not do all of them, but maybe focus on 3. And if I can divide you into 3 groups, and 3 groups will be working on 3 different questions. Okay, so perhaps, is there any question that actually is interesting for you? Have a look, and maybe first come, first serve basis. Is there anything that you're interested in? Martina?
Maybe not the last one, but what are the most effective teaching methods?
Okay, so Martina, this one is for you. Who will be in your group? 2 more people, please. 3 more people.
Me.
Okay? Alessia, 1 more person with Martina. Luca. Perfect. So you will be focusing on what are the most effective teaching methods used to teach interpreting skills. So not only that, you're thinking if the questionnaire is the best method to use, but also are this question actually answerable by research? Because we need to think a little bit about the right research question. If not, how we can refine that research question, okay? And if so, what would be the best research method? Because maybe you will think questionnaire is not the best method, and you think, okay, focus group or maybe case study, okay? So you will need to do the whole thing, okay? And then maybe something that I like calling triangulation. So, okay, questionnaire is very good, but how can we triangulate that? So maybe add another method to get best results, to be better informed. Okay, so that's for Martina group. The next group, which question do you want to do? We won't have time to do all of them, so Lavinia, go for it.
I like the police one.
Oh, I really like that you like the police one because it's quite interesting. What are the main issues encountered by the police when conducting investigative interviews with interpreters? Who is your team? Who wants to work with Lavinia on that? Nobody wants to work with you? Oh, okay. Amin and Maria. So that leaves us with Huiling, Ami and Harry. If you can choose the question.
You choose one.
Huiling, you seem like a researcher.
Oh, really? Maybe I will tell you which one after class. Or
Okay, that's fine. Yeah. So those who are not present, I think it's Elle and I cannot see Elena. Maybe they join whichever group, okay? But whenever we see each other next time, we are going to work on it. And not only think if the questionnaire is the best method, but also about the question itself. Is it a good research question? before you go, Lavinia, I need to apologize you, but I won't be able to have the session next week. And let me just go very quickly to the calendar. So I'm sorry if you booked some train tickets, Harry, I don't know. Yes? Okay, go. I will post it, but I just wanted to check with you on that Tuesdays, because I know most of you here are full-time. On those Tuesdays, are you here, or do you have to make some special arrangements, or do you have to organize your work? Because I really don't know what you're doing.
When, next Tuesday?
No, next Tuesday I will need
Okay.
to postpone it. I can't really do it. But I'm just thinking about the following week, and again, it depends. I put our session, I think, I put this session that was supposed to be next week, so I'm going to write here postpone or something like that. Where is it? Postponed. Postponed. Or cancelled, maybe. Not postponed, better, because it is postponed. To, and which one was it? What was I saying? 17th.
Do I need to type the region number?
I'm in the IMO ever.
On the 17th. Okay. So there is.
As is Elena.
As is Elena. Okay. So there is another day that I wanted to suggest to you, and it's 10th. What about the 10th?
That's fine.
It's just I'm not sure because I've got an operation the week before and it's under general anesthetic, but I always think that I will be fine. So if I'm okay, and I hope to be okay because we've got one conference which I really like on Monday, then we can have it on Tuesday maybe, or you're at the IMO that week, no?
No, next week. Okay.
You're next week, okay, so actually the 10th could be better, but it depends how I am. So it will be either 10th or 17th. Is that okay?
Yeah.
Are you flexible, or you've got work commitments? Okay, good. And last thing I wanted to tell you, if you're struggling with your topic, please drop me an email and we can meet for a quick session, and perhaps I will be able to help you, because it's not good that you're, trying to come up with something and you're struggling, but I'm happy to help you with your research question or theme, okay? So if you're struggling, just let me know, okay? So I will confirm to you what's happening. It's 10th or 11th, okay? Good. Good. Go and enjoy your afternoon.
Thank you.
Or maybe practicing interpreting.